Okay, so how many of you remember the Pinto? You know, the car when you got rear-ended, you died in a flaming heap. Remember that? That that vehicle single-handedly, basically. Well, he was involved in a lot of things, from seat belts to you name it. But Ralph Nader, his name was made on the Pinto, and the number of people that died in flaming accidents in that car. So number one, the car was prone to burn on impact. That wasn't the problem. The problem was is when you were rear-ended, the gas tank being very exposed with very little protection, the doors bent, which means your straight door went and you could not get them open. And that's why so many people died in flaming Pintos. Um, once you get that name, it stays with you forever. People remember, and no one wants to buy a Pinto. Even now, even as a classic car, no one wants that fucking Pinto. Well, you might have it in a display or something, but no one's going to want to drive that car around. Well, that's kind of what's happening to Russia. You see, their main industries, other than gas and oil, and now they know that they're fucked on that. Number one, the United States is producing more oil than any country on Earth. Okay? So for all you political retards out there, the United States is producing more oil than any country in the world, and that you have some fucking orange dude saying, I'm gonna drill, 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 baby. Because, well, I guess that's what stupid people want to hear. You see, that's Russia's position. Nobody wants their shit anymore. This is why we can produce what we're producing, because we're supplying the world with oil now. You see, their gas would be 70 cents a gallon if they were producing this much and not exporting it. And oil companies don't want that to happen. So Russia basically screwed itself out of its major business. It has to go behind doors, over walls, underground to sell its petroleum products now. And now the clamps have even been tightened down even more. What do they have to sell? What do they have to export to the world other than military equipment? Well, that was their number one fucking business besides oil. And I'm going to tell you something right now. No one wants a T-72 tank anymore. After watching them just get their asses handed to them in Iraq, where Abrams were blowing the turrets off T-72s before they were even in range of the enemy. Simple as that. And the ones that were behind defile trenches, where just the top was sticking up, they were still hitting them before they were even in range of the T-72s. Who wants a fucking T-72? No one. This is why you're not seeing the T-90s on the battlefield, because, well, they sent a couple and bing, bang, boom, doors crushed, flaming balls of death, exploding flying turret demonstrations. Look, this has more shells and more powerful ammo, and you can throw that turret much further now. They're in dire straits. This is why you're seeing them haul these pieces of crap, T-60s and shit. Can you imagine the United States going to Iraq and hauling Shermans out? You know what I mean? Or Pattons out of storage and fighting with those because we don't want the world to see the M1 Abrams tank as a failure? No, it's just the opposite, wasn't it? T-72 was a failure. It's a failure in Ukraine, It's basically going to continue to be a failure, and no one wants it. So the last thing in the world that they want to do is to send their most modern, the Armada and the T-90. They don't want those tanks going to Ukraine and having everyone see that they're shit too. They're shit. Simple as that. Everything they produce is shit. Why? Because that's their philosophy. We'll sell them to India. We'll sell them to, you know what I mean? They've screwed themselves so badly. We have 12,000 tanks. Well, the Institute for War and the Pentagon and everybody looked and they said, yeah, but only 2,500 of those are main battle tanks. So this is why they're getting their asses handed to them. Ukraine is fighting the way it has to fight. Russia's fighting the way it thinks it's supposed to fight. I'm disgusted when I see Republicans holding back the needed aid for Ukraine. I'm disgusted as an American. Okay, they have forgotten who their enemy is because Donald Trump wants to suck Vladimir Putin's T-72 because he doesn't want the piss tape coming out. And so he'll do anything to flatter the man because he knows that one day that tape's going to come out. When Donald Trump ends up going to jail, in order to further embarrass America, that tape is going to leak out. I'll guarantee you that. So Russia's screwed. Right now, they can't take Ukraine. And they're talking about, if NATO does anything, what are you going to do? What are you going to do against an Air Force? What are you going to do when the F-16 show up with HARM missiles? What are you going to do when they show up with 2,000-pound JDAMs, 500-pound glide bombs? What are you going to do then? You see, this is why all the nuclear threats, because they understand the truth. They're not stupid. They know the situation right now is they've already lost. They've already lost. It's exactly like the feeling you got when America started bombing Cambodia and Laos, okay? Because they'd lost control of their power over the North Vietnamese. Well, we'll just go around you guys. Same way the Germans did with the Maginot Line. And so what do you have? Politicians lying through their teeth, okay? Bombing and killing innocent people and making enemies. Same thing we did in Iraq and Afghanistan. Same thing that the Israelis are now doing in Gaza, okay? And at this point, basically, it's the same thing they're doing in Luhansk and the Donbass areas of Ukraine, because now they're telling these young guys in those areas, you have to go and fight for Russia. It's not going to go over well. Okay? The people that have been doing the shooting and the anti-government forces were Russian soldiers. Anyone who doesn't know that hasn't been following this for 15 years. Okay? Since 2014, when they went in there, the little green men, they called them, they were Russian soldiers, fully fucking equipped in Russian vehicles, with Russian uniforms, Russian weapons, without any patches whatsoever on them. Now, who does that? Even revolutionary fighters, they have a patch bragging about who they're with, okay? So they've screwed their oil business. They've screwed themselves politically. They've screwed themselves with their other major business, which is producing military equipment, okay? And it's never going to change. I don't want to make predictions. I don't like making predictions unless I'm very sure. But I see Vladimir Putin is on some very, very thin ice right now, because everyone there who kept him in power, listen, he didn't stay in power by himself. It was a mutual back-patting association, okay, and that's starting to break down. And, You have mothers screaming in the streets now, calling him a fucking tyrant, loser, and shit. Okay, I mean, you can feel the Russian people will only put up with shit for so long, but the oligarchs, the actual power structure, the ones that we here in the United States we call them and they, well, them and they in Russia are pretty sick of Vladimir Putin and where he's leading them, okay? The guy has meetings with people where they're at the end of a 20-foot table. Doesn't look good. It's not a good look. People know that he has $1 trillion fucking palace with anti-missile systems, and people know. The oligarchs, I really get this sense that they are a part of this whole, look, we're not sending T-90s. We need to have an industry when this is over. And, well, I can tell you something. It's never going to be over till you leave. Just like Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq. It's never going to be over until you leave, okay? Whether you're the United States or Russia, you're fucking leaving Afghanistan, period. And you're going to leave a loser. If you don't have the moral law on your side, you cannot win. I see, the best thing that could have happened. The American, these brilliant minds who've never studied anything other than these books from generals from 200 years ago, they need to go back to like 600 BC. Because that's the kind of war you're seeing on the front lines here. Okay, it comes down to the people pulling the triggers. Right now, it's people pulling triggers in holes. And they fought Russia to a standstill. And Russia said, okay, well, we're going to come right here. Here we come. We're coming right here. And then next week, we're going to come right here again. You see this road? We're coming right here again. What? What a beautiful setup for the Ukrainians. They know exactly where Russia's going to attack. Someplace they don't, that's basically unnecessary to take. It's unnecessary. And little old Ukraine has fought them to a standstill. Winter is here, and everyone's like, oh, Russia's going to rebuild their forces. No, listen. Americans overpromised and underdelivered. It's embarrassing for me as an American, okay, because of a few fucking political assholes. But the rest of Europe is like, no, we're giving you 19 F-16s. So while the Russians are rearming with their pieces of shit that have proven themselves to be pieces of shit, Ukraine is training on weaponry like the Swedish Archer system, all computer controlled. 20 rounds in a minute and then gone in 20 seconds? And F-16s with HARM anti-radiation missiles? Springtime is a bad time for war. Mud is the enemy of everybody. Equipment, health, delivery, supply chains, you name it, okay? But by the end of next summer, I see Vladimir Putin falling down an elevator shaft onto some bullets. Or slipping and falling onto a very sharp knife. Or maybe even falling out of a window somewhere. Who knows? Because they will all be fighting over what he has. If you think that his daughter and his mistress are going to keep that fucking $1 trillion property or all the money and the billions and billions he has squirreled away, if you think that they're going to inherit that, you have no idea how the Russian system works. They're as good as dead too, okay? So yeah, let them keep coming down the same fucking road every week. It's insane, but you see it with your own eyes. It's happening every single week, every single day. It's happening, okay? And you don't see the T-90. It's so obvious why the T-90, because that was a marketing ploy. That is a Pinto, okay, disguised as a tank. The Russians know it, and they don't want the world to know it because they need something to sell after Vladimir Putin is gone. So the P90, the Pinto 90, okay, is not in Ukraine because it's just a marketing scam right from the get-go. That's all it is. Okay? And it doesn't matter, even if the tank is decent, if you have somebody that doesn't want to be there and is going to jump out of that tank as soon as someone shoots at him and run away, what good does it do you anyway? It's getting now where you can have 3 APCs moving in a line, one artillery lands next to one of them. You don't even have to hit one. Just throw some artillery near them and everybody bails and runs away. Can you imagine Americans fighting that way? Wow. All the superior training that the conscripts are getting. So yeah, the Russian Pinto is not being seen because it was a marketing scam all along. And that's, they need to have an industry when this is over, and that's what they're hoping for because the electron is taking over. They've screwed all of their previous contracts for petrochemical products. That's it. That's it. That's what they've got now. Their economy is, talk about overheating. It is an example of overheating, okay? And something else people don't understand. You go to St. Petersburg, you go to Moscow, it looks like Russia's a modern, someplace modern. You go anywhere else in Russia, and it looks like the backwoods of Alabama. I'm not kidding you, okay? It looks like the 20th century just passed them by. They're in dire straits. They are in dire straits. And Ukraine can finish them off for us. They can finish Russia off for us, put them in a weakened position, okay, where they have to now deal with the Ukrainians in faith, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I just got this feeling. Every time I see Vladimir Putin, I see a dead man walking.